Well, welcome to the webinar for Elmhurst College for the GIS Certificate Program. My name is Dr. Rich Schultz and I'm the director of the program. And what I'd like to be able to do tonight is talk a little bit about our program, but also a little bit about geographic information systems and what the value is of learning something about spatial concepts. As you can see here, our program is designed for both the working professional as well as traditional college students. However, I would say that in our GIS certificate program, the vast majority of the students that we receive are either career changers or they're folks who have been working in the GIS or the geospatial community and are coming back to retool, or folks that are basically brand new to geospatial technologies and want to learn more about it, how they're able to apply it to their present occupation. So again, thank you for taking time to attend our webinar. A little bit of a rundown here, some housekeeping issues. We'll meet a couple of our program faculty and administrative personnel this evening. We'll also learn a little bit about geospatial tools and how pervasive they're becoming in our society. We'll also learn about our program, which is, I suspect, what many of the attendees here are interested in. And then finally, we'll have an opportunity at the end of the webinar to hear from our attendees and how to be able to apply to the program or any other questions that you might have. So there will be a chat box that you'll see on your screen, and you'll be able to type in the questions following the broadcast here. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge just a couple of the organizations and the folks that have made this webinar possible for us this evening. First of which is the National Geospatial Technology Center of Excellence, the GeoTech Center in Corpus Christi, Texas. Their director, Dr. Phil Davis, has been most supportive of our program and of the notion of geospatial technologies in various communities. We'd also like to thank ESRI, the Environmental Systems Research Institute, for their support, as well as the Elmhurst College School for Professional Studies and the Office of Adult and Graduate Admission. You'll actually have an opportunity to meet one of the personnel from that organization a little bit later this evening. I should note up front that the webinar that you'll be seeing, as well as the PowerPoint, will be available. We're going to archive both the webinar and the PowerPoint slides on giscert.elmhurst.edu, which is the main site for the program. And also we'll give you some contact information as well. Again, my name is Dr. Rich Schultz, and my email address is richs@elmhurst.edu. So we'll have an opportunity here this evening, like I said, to be able to introduce you to faculty member as well as one of the personnel from the Adult and Graduate Student Enrollment Office of Adult and Graduate Admission. We'll have an opportunity to meet Dr. Dean Jensen, who teaches two of our courses, the IS 100 and the IS 200. He's a web application and information specialist from Information Services. He also serves a dual role as an adjunct faculty member in the Department of Computer Science and Information Systems. So we'll hear from both of these folks in just a few moments. For those of you who might be new to geographic information systems, it's a little bit of an enigma when we ask someone how to actually explain what it is that you do and what GIS is to you. No two geospatial professionals who are working in the industry would probably define it the same way. Our definition would be thought of as geographic information systems being the tool or the mechanism whereby analysis can take place of a spatial nature. So we're able to observe different types of spatial relationships. We're able to make connections. We're able to see patterns because of looking at some spatial data that we've collected and how it's connected to a visual representation, usually in the form of a map. So if we change the data, we will change the map on the fly. If we overlay various types of layers, one on top of each other, we may see some developing patterns. You would undoubtedly not be able to see those types of patterns if you were to just look at the numerical data in the database on its own. So that's the value of geographic information systems. GIS is the tool that we use. The industry that we work in is the geospatial technologies industry. That particular industry crosses almost any discipline or interest area that you can think of. It can be applied to almost anything that has any sort of spatial connection or connotation to it. So in terms of spatial data, things such as area codes, addresses, latitude, longitude points, elevation points, anything, again, that might have some sort of a spatial connection to it can be essentially mapped and put onto a visual. And it's been estimated that 80% of all data has some sort of a spatial element to it. So that makes geographic information systems very pervasive in society and very easily applied across disciplines. It is definitely more than just software or creating a map or a GPS unit that you might have in your vehicle. We use GIS, as I said, to be able to see spatial patterns, and that's the focal point of lots of different types of governmental operations. Homeland Security, state, local, federal government, all use geographic information systems to be able to see various types of patterns. Again, we'll emphasize that GIS is used as a tool in all different types of, say, utilities and different types of construction operations. It's been used in a number of different types of businesses for facility management, resource conservation issues, city planning, different types of urban design and so forth. So many types of applications, and I think that's the beauty of using GIS in geospatial technologies as a discipline. It's really a key role in marketing, in business, research, site selection, real estate, supply chain management is another area which is a perfect marriage of using GIS as a tool. And as we mentioned, different types of natural resource and potentially exploration activities as well. It's beginning to crop up in lots of areas that one might not expect, including social sciences, healthcare applications, much more pervasive, almost ubiquitous in terms of how much we're seeing it in the various types of industries in society. Sometimes we have to step back and say, gee, why haven't I heard about GIS? I've heard about GPS, or I've heard about things that are spatial, but well, the chances are pretty good that you've not maybe heard of it, but you've used it, and maybe you didn't even know that you've used it. If you've used MapQuest or applications such as Google Maps, Google Earth, Google Streets, even a GPS unit in your vehicle is tied into geospatial technologies, although the GPS unit is really just a receiver to be able to receive the signals for the locations. But if you've used any of these types of applications or software, then you've used a form of a GIS that uses various types of spatial data, and it's connected to visuals. So again, we see a new perspective on that information or on that data, and that's the spatial perspective. Many employers are looking for people who have different types of perspectives on solving problems, especially in the various types of applications in areas that I just mentioned. If you want to learn more about the geospatial industry itself, the Department of Labor's site, the URL is listed in front of you, has a very nice profile on that. One of the things that they'll mention on the Department of Labor's site is that about 5 or 6 years ago, in 2006, the United States Department of Labor made the declaration that there are 3 high-growth industries. The first of which is no surprise, is healthcare. The second was nanotechnologies, which certainly has come to fruition. And thirdly was geospatial technologies. What they advertised was that this was not only a high-growth industry, but it was something that was going to have a tremendous amount of job opportunities for members of society in the future. I'd go so far as to say that there are actually going to be shortages of workers that are getting into the geospatial industry in the coming years. It's been demonstrated that there are more than several 100,000 shortages of workers that are going to be getting into the field, which bodes well for people that are getting into this particular area of discipline. There are jobs out there. I'll share with you that in our traditional undergraduate program in geospatial technologies here at Elmhurst College, in the past several years, our students have not only had paid internships, of which they had their choice of which ones that they could actually do, but last year our students who graduated, out of the graduating class, 100% of the students had secured full-time employment in the geospatial community prior to their graduation. So that made us feel very good that the opportunities were there, and it made the students feel very good that in a challenging economy they were able to secure employment in their area of discipline. Just some statistics here about how much the Department of Labor and our federal government has invested in the geospatial technologies industry. ETA, the Employment and Training Administration, has invested more than $8 million in the industry. There are 6 high-growth job training initiative grants and 1 multi-industry community-based job training grant that are all part of the mix here. I'll show you a model in just a moment, which is one of the end products from some of these grants and their studies. Again, if you want to learn more about this, the URL that you see in front of you is a place to go to be able to really understand what's going on and in the geospatial community, and also how the federal government has laid out the funding to be able to make this a successful program. The takeaway from this is that the U.S. government sees geospatial technologies as an extremely important industry in our future, and it has also seen to it that it has been financially supported. You can take a look here at some of the geospatial occupations and what their titles are. Mostly we see the terms geospatial popping out, spatial, technicians, technologists. The projected growth that you see here in the next decade or so is on the order of 7 to 13%, which is average to above average in many particular areas. Mapping technicians is one particular area that's going to see very, very quick growth, faster than average, more than 20%. Those are folks that have some abilities with the GIS software, but who can also solve problems and see things from a spatial perspective. I might also add here that this particular list that was put together by the United States Department of Labor, ETA, back in 2010, doesn't even include the geospatial software programmers. And we're going to talk about them in a few moments here to see how they play into the mix. So our biggest challenge right now in the geospatial community is, as a result of so many people that are getting into areas such as healthcare and the more traditional STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math, that geospatial technologies will have a worker shortage in the years to come. And in higher education and in the geospatial professional community, they're very worried about what the future might hold if we don't have more folks getting into this particular area of interest. It will definitely stop the growth if we don't have people that are getting into it. We already see lots of employment opportunities in this area. It's going to become even more robust in the future in terms of the openings that will be present. So we might ask ourselves, how do we get in on the employment opportunities? It's to educate ourselves a little bit about what the spatial perspective means and how GIS might be used as a tool in many different disciplines to solve lots of different types of problems and to see things in new ways that we may have never seen before by just looking at a spreadsheet full of numbers. Looking at the spatial perspective is that important to the future and the infrastructure of our country. The emphasis here again is on learning some skill sets and applying what's relevant to your discipline. You don't have to work in quote-unquote the geospatial industry. There are many industries that you can work in. Have some skill sets in geospatial thinking and geospatial abilities to be able to succeed. The skill sets were all put together and compiled in the form of the graphic that you see on the screen now, which is referred to as the Geospatial Technology Competency Model, or the GTCM, which the United States Department of Labor, as well as the Geotech Center in Corpus Christi, Texas, a National Science Foundation funded organization, put together in the summer of 2010. They've been continually revising it. It has evolved, but what you will see there is a list of skill sets in a hierarchical pattern from foundational all the way up to very specific occupation-related and managerial skill sets at the very top of the pyramid. The notion of putting all this together is not a new one. There are a number of other industries that have put together skill sets. However, it's fairly small. There's only a couple of dozen or so of industries that have taken enough time to work with the Department of Labor to be able to synthesize and put together a competency model such as this. If you go to the careeronestop.org site, the URL is listed on your screen there, under competency model, this is what you will see. And on the left-hand side here, you can actually see that there are a number of industries that have put together competency models. Construction workers and bioscience, allied health, and so forth. Mathematics is on the list, transportation, the water sector. So there are just a handful of them there that have done that. The point being that Geospatial Technologies has taken the time to work with the Department of Labor to assemble this. So it's a pretty robust industry if we have the skill sets that well defined and are able to apply them. I've built a website here on a web page on the geospatial industry, and I've been compiling information there for about the last 6 or 7 years. So if there's anything that you might be interested in, you can leave a comment there. You can also contact me through my email, which is listed on that particular site. Again, we'll let you know that all of the PowerPoint slides here will be available for download following the presentation. A number of you might have come here tonight attending our webinar to learn more about the certificate program that we have here at Elmhurst College. So I'd like to introduce that by saying it's a completely online and asynchronous program, meaning that it's a curriculum that's very accessible online, and it can be completed for most of our participants certainly within less than 1 year, and in many instances in less than 9 months. It includes a total of 4 courses. We do ask that if you're brand new to the geospatial technology sector and are not familiar with the software, or if you're a career changer, an introductory fundamentals course is necessary to be able to proceed successfully through the course sequence. So when we say 4 courses, there would be 5 courses, which is an 8-week kind of a primer course. Among the required courses in the curriculum are courses in remote sensing technologies, where we'll learn a little bit about aerial photography and the interpretation of satellite imagery and how that's used in a number of different applications. We'll learn something about customization, Python programming, the introductory language that's used in the GIS world, and we'll also offer a geodatabase course, along with the final course in the sequence, which is a capstone course, whereby students take on a problem of their own design and work with a GIS professional as an advisor to be able to solve that problem. In many instances, we have people who are actually working in the geospatial technologies community who will be solving a problem that they're actually tackling at work. And so this sort of does double duty for them, and they're able to work collaboratively with someone else who's working in the GIS field to be able to design something and to solve a problem. So it's a very practical approach to being able to actually learn how to apply what they've learned in the program. Again, there's that note about most students taking 4 courses. As I mentioned, those new to the field, career changers, for example, would take GIS 100. We offer that in the summer. We also are offering it again in February. That will be new for us to offer it in February in a new format. It'll be an 8-week course for GIS 100. We'll talk about that in just a moment here. So all of our courses at this point are 8 weeks in duration. Again, there's a mention there that for those that are new to GIS or not familiar with the Esri software, the industry-wide standard for use of the geospatial tools, that course might be waived if people have already had the prior experience with the software or have been doing GIS, for example. The first offering of the GIS 100, as I mentioned, will be in February of March 2013, 8-week course, entirely online, asynchronous, meaning that it'll go week by week. It's an 8-week course, so we'll have 8 modules. The modules normally open up on Sundays. They close the subsequent Saturday. So there's a window of time that the students are able to complete their work, but in the interim, there are synchronous webinars, there are discussion boards, there is lots of content and learning that takes place, and it's all at the convenience of the student. They can do it anytime they want during that particular week before assignments and so forth are due. The other coursework that we have sequentially begins after GIS 100, and that includes our remote sensing technologies and techniques course, GIS 200, which begins in April. The first programming course is the ISG 100, beginning in June, and the Implementing Geodatabase course beginning after the ISG 100. So we end the GIS programming course, ISG 100, in July. We start up with the Implementing Geodatabase course at the end of August, beginning of September. And then our final capstone course, as I spoke of earlier, begins in November, and students who begin the program in February of 2013 will complete the entire program by December of 2013. So it's something that we concentrate on in terms of skill sets. We tie it into the geospatial technology competency model. Most of our program participants will complete the program having a collection of projects that they've undertaken in the form of an e-portfolio so that they're actually able to demonstrate to potential employers exactly what their skill sets are and what those might be in relationship to the geospatial technology competency model. And I think that's a nice takeaway that we have that's very practical for the program participants, that they're able to hit the ground running, go in for, say, an interview in the geospatial workforce, and they're able to show their potential employer something that they've done, what their experience is like. They usually come in at the GIS technician level. That's usually the skill sets that collaborate with what our program actually offers in terms of the skills. One of the questions we often get is, why should I undertake a certificate? Well, if you're considering further education, degree programs in GIS or in geospatial technologies, those are pretty prevalent out there in higher education, but a 4-year commitment is required to complete a baccalaureate degree, and past that, there are 2 years for a graduate degree. So that's quite an undertaking. A lot of certificate programs are indeed baccalaureate, meaning that in order to be admitted to those programs, the student must have a degree in, say, geospatial technologies or in GIS or geography. Good example of that is Penn State's post-baccalaureate program. Certificate programs are generally organized for those who don't have 4 years and large sums of capital to be able to commit for an intense 4-year degree program. That's 4 years at a full-time course level, or an additional 2 years past that for a degree also. So that's what a certificate program really does. Our certificate program at Elmhurst College is not a post-baccalaureate degree because we do not require a bachelor's degree in order to be admitted to our program. We do require a high school diploma, but there's no necessity for any type of college transcripts. We base our coursework, as I mentioned before, on the skill sets that are needed for those who go through the program to be able to succeed and transition successfully into the geospatial industry. We've been in contact with lots of employers on a national basis, and they are seeking mostly folks who can not only think spatially, who have some programming skills, especially in Python, but are able to customize a little bit too, using tools such as Model Builder, for example. Employers are also looking for people who can display what their talents are. They want to know that the people that they're going to be hiring as part of their workforce have some background in it and can demonstrate that. They're making an investment in hiring someone, and they want to be sure that they're going to be getting someone with some skill sets. A portfolio, if you will, that demonstrates that experience of geospatial cognition, of problem solving, of understanding the spatial concepts to be able to problem solve. I compiled a list here of what people who are looking into a geospatial program might be looking for. And having asked a number of people who were seeking to get into the geospatial programs around the country, some of the things that they look for, and of course this is not an exhaustive list, but it emphasizes the main elements of what might be present in a program. I would ask, is Python programming included as part of the curriculum? It's that important now that we have some sort of Python programming embedded in as a skill set. It's listed in the Geospatial Technology Competency Model put together by the Department of Labor. It's in our curriculum. Is there a capstone course that uses spatial skill sets where a participant might be able to work on a focused problem with a member of the geospatial workforce, to work collaboratively as a team effort to be able to problem solve? Is there access on a 24/7 basis to the software, whereby you don't have to purchase special hardware, go out and buy a new computer, or install any software on your computer at home? The software that you'll be using in our program is through a dedicated GIS server. So we issue our students a username and password. They log into a site. They access the software on a 24/7 basis. I would ask if there is a one-on-one faculty expertise available in the program you're seeking that can provide guidance and answer your questions. For some of our students who are local around the Elmhurst, Illinois area, our instructors are willing to meet with them on a one-on-one basis. For our remote students, they have Skype sessions, they have phone calls, they communicate back and forth through discussion boards, through emails. You're not going through the program without any sort of resources behind you. There's always going to be some sort of assistance for you that's available. Has the program been around for a little while? We've been around since 2005, 2006. We've had an opportunity to be able to develop to a changing marketplace. We didn't originally have programming courses as part of our curriculum, but our early students literally asked for those. Their employers wanted them to have some background in programming and in some customization, so we added it to our curriculum. That's the type of program that has gone through some of the initial road bumps and has adapted to a changing marketplace. Is the program recommended and or supported by ESRI, or the industry standard in terms of the software? Is your program aligned with the geospatial skill sets in the Geospatial Technology Competency Model? Is it based on good quality teaching and good quality pedagogy, how everything is presented by faculty who are used to small faculty-student ratio and small cohorts where there's personal attention. Are the instructors experienced online educators? In the case of our instructors, they've been doing this for quite a while and they know what to expect. They've had an opportunity to be able to see what sort of challenges that students have in the program, and they emphasize what those particular problem-solving issues might be, and they speak to those. Is the program priced competitively and able to be completed in a reasonable amount of time? We've recently undertaken a schedule change in ours so that our courses are only 8 weeks in duration. It's an accelerated program, but it's also something that's not dragged out for 16-week semesters at a time. It's something where students can learn rather quickly and be able to take what they've learned and apply it into what they're doing in their current job or into a new position that they might be seeking. So I think that one of the reasons that most of us are here are to not only learn about our program, but to learn a little bit more about geospatial technologies and how it might be used. And I think we've spoken to that a little bit, but just a couple of more applications here. Really represents a myriad of different disciplines: geography and math and technology and communications applied in a number of different sectors. And that's what this graphic here illustrates. The number of folks that are out there that are using GIS as a tool in their job is probably more than 500,000 now in the United States, and an equal number over the globe. 10% or 50,000 are using GIS full-time now. That number has increased dramatically within the last 10 years. We used to have very few people who were doing GIS on a full-time capacity, but I think that number is going up all the time. 90% using GIS as part of their job. Numbers are growing at about 15% annually. So again, the job market, the demand for people with some sort of spatial abilities, with GIS coursework, some knowledge of the geospatial technologies industry is increasing every year. Most of the people are using GIS for only a part of their job, but like I said before, that number is increasing all the time. It used to be a few years ago that when someone had some knowledge of GIS and some skills and was able to work the software, then other people in that same organization came to them, and while they were the only person that was doing that, they were a one-person shop, they could barely keep up with the work because it was growing exponentially. And what they found was that they had to make reparations to be able to increase the size of their budget, to increase the number of GIS workers. There's just so much GIS work that's out there that they couldn't hire enough people. And again, the demand is outstripping the university programs, potentially causing a shortage of workers in the future. So this is one of the few industries where that's really happening. This is not certainly an exhaustive list that you see in front of on your screen, but these are the types of disciplines and professions that are using geospatial technologies in one way or another. I don't want to go on and certainly read all these, so what I did was I compiled a list. Took me quite a while to put all this together because there are many terms that are used and job descriptions and job titles and so forth. So you're welcome to download a 16-page PDF list of all of the different types of technologies and job listings that are actually used in this particular industry. You'll see more and more websites that look like things like this. And those are people who have put those together that are using geospatial technologies to see different sorts of patterns. On the left-hand side here, you'll see one that's the Chicago Police Department. It's called ClearMap, and it's a summary of crime that occurs in the various Chicago neighborhoods. There have been many crimes that not only have been committed in certain types of patterns, but different types of perpetrators have been apprehended as a result of what those patterns are because they were mapped out ahead of time. So that's the type of spatial thinking and proactive type of actions that are happening as a result of using GIS as a tool. It's showing up in nearly every walk of life. Anything that has any sort of location to it, think of a smartphone and what most of the apps on the smartphone are including. A lot of them are including GPS and location as a result. So that all speaks to mobile applications and to GPS and to location and to being able to think spatially. Well, at this point, we've talked a little bit about the program, and we've talked a little bit about how geospatial technologies is changing our world. And I'd like to hear a little bit from Dr. Dean Jensen, who is responsible for a number of different activities here on the campus in terms of technology, but he's also an adjunct faculty member here and teaches as part of our GIS certificate program. Dr. Jensen.
Thank you, Dr. Schultz. And again, good evening, everybody, and thank you for spending a bit of your time with us tonight to talk about the GIS program here at Elmhurst College. As was mentioned by Dr. Schultz, I have two responsibilities here at the college. My primary responsibility is that of web application and information specialist in the Office of Information Services. What that means to you is basically the support and maintenance for the GIS server, which we'll talk about in a moment. That's a dedicated platform that allows for the remote accessing of the ARC suite of applications to really make your life easier so that you don't have to worry about purchasing that software, you don't have to worry about, installing it. My second role here is that of an adjunct in the Department of Computer Science and Information Systems, and I have the opportunity to teach both the ISG 100 and 200 courses in the certificate program. What you'll see in the program is that we like to differentiate a technical program with technical skills. I know that might sound a little strange, but to me, GIS by its nature is a very technical field, a very technical program. We want to bring in and augment and make you more marketable by differentiating ourselves with a little more of the technology, namely the computer programming skills, because what that will afford you is the opportunity for customizations and automation within ArcGIS to become more efficient, more productive in your use of the tools. We'll look at geodatabases as the container for modern information because things have this spatial component. How do we organize those? How do we get the most out of that? So by combining the general concepts of computer programming, the fundamentals of relational databases, we believe that Elmhurst College will be, setting you up for a very prosperous future with these additional technology skills. But taking a step back for a second is how do you access these technologies? At Elmhurst College, we are lucky enough to partner with ESRI to have a site license for all of their wonderful tools. We provide access to you for those tools on a dedicated GIS server. It could be accessed through this landing site, gis.elmhurst.edu, but basically what it affords you is the ability to access the applications through the web. It also gives you access to over a terabyte of spatial data so that as you're progressing through the program, as you're working on various activities, various exercises, as you progress into the capstone, you have access to some underlying data sets that you might not have access to elsewhere. By going to gis.elmhurst.edu, what you'll see is basically a landing page for the application server. There'll be a way to log into the server by clicking the big icon at the bottom that says ArcGIS Logon. By doing that and entering your username, entering your password, you'll have basically a dashboard of applications that are tailored to your experience in the GIS program, namely ArcGIS, ArcMap, ArcCatalog, some tools for Python, some tools for remote sensing, as well as Microsoft Office, so that if you have to do any sort of data manipulation in Excel or Access, that all of those tools are provided for you to make your experience more flexible and easier here. We'll talk a little bit more in a second about how access to that is going to become easier. But what you'll be able to do is create a new map. So you'll get ArcMap to open. You can use ArcDesktop to create a new map. And what we'll ultimately see is a nice map with various layers. So this is the full application, and you'll have access to it through the web. We are in the process for February of adding on top of what we already offer a piece with Citrix, which will allow you to access these applications basically from any computer, any device. Right now we've leveraged heavily Microsoft's technology, which while we have workarounds for those that use Macintoshes and other platforms, it really limits it to those using a PC, those using Internet Explorer. But when we look, as Dr. Schultz was mentioning, Elmhurst has the longevity of doing GIS online. If we look at what we were doing 3 years ago, we've learned from that. We know that more people are coming with Macintoshes, more people are traveling with just a tablet, be that an Android device or an iOS device. So we're going to look to give you the tools so that when you're on the road, when you're busy, you can easily access the things that you need to. The two classes that are the technology-oriented ones that I instruct in, the first is ISG 100. It focuses on Python, which is an interpreted, interactive, object-oriented, and extensible programming language. Now, while it has the power, it is also somewhat simple to pick up, simple to learn. It is the native language that ArcGIS uses for automating a lot of its processes through geoprocessing scripts. The plan for this class is not really to make everybody an expert master programmer in Python. That is not the intent. So if you're getting freaked out a little bit, please do not. The course is just designed to introduce you to the concepts of computer programming using Python. So we will talk a little bit about what's the difference between a functional and an object-oriented programming language, but the real purpose of that is so that you have the knowledge when you're talking to more of those IT people in your organization to be able to speak their language, to get them to do what you need them to do. That's why we spend the second half of the course really focusing on Model Builder, which is the graphical tool in the ESRI suite that allows for the creation of these geoprocessing scripts and workflows from a visual component. Now, if you open and look under the hood, what you'll see is Python code. So having a little bit of Python knowledge will help us out when we start to look at those models. That then transitions us into ISG 200, which is implementing geodatabases. A geodatabase is basically a database that is designed specifically to store, query, manipulate geographic information with that spatial data component. What we do is, again, spend half of the course on what I would say would be more so theory elements, laying a little bit of the foundation, focusing on Microsoft Access as the platform, because with Access we could build personal geodatabases. We will look a little bit at SQL Server, which is Microsoft's bigger brother to Access. The skills are also transferable to Oracle or any other database platform. Because what we'll see is basically the foundation or the essentials of a relational database. How do we normalize data? How do we extract and manipulate that information through the structured query language or SQL or SQL? It's basically that language that provides us the ability to get the information that we want. Once we've laid that foundation, we'll then transition for the second half of the course to look specifically at geodatabase topics. So we'll look at the feature classes, we'll look at data sets, we'll look at relational classes and the topology to see how can we take the knowledge that we've just gained in Access, in SQL, to transition that into a geodatabase, which will help you as you get into your capstone class, because ultimately what you'll be doing in there is building projects that consume a lot of this data, some of which might be provided through the spatial data that we have on the server, some might be acquired from other sources. This is a quick overview snapshot of what a particular weekly module would look like. So this is the Learning Management System, Blackboard. It has 1 week's lecture in here for the ISG 200 course, where you'll see at the top, and most of them will fall under this guideline, where you have a narrated PowerPoint presentation that serves as a quick lecture overview for the week. You'll get lecture notes. Various times you'll have links to external resources, in this case a web link to how to use wildcards in Microsoft Access, as well as various videos that pertain to the learning outcomes for that week. In this case, overview introductory videos to the SQL language, as well as screencasts of, okay, how in Microsoft Access do we actually implement these things. So you'll get a well-versed, well-rich multimedia experience. What I'd like to do now is hand this over to Mr. Tim Alberg in the Office of Adult and Graduate Admissions, who can help you better understand what your next steps are.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks, Dr. Schultz. As he said, I'm Tim Alberg. I'm the Assistant Director of Adult and Graduate Enrollment here at Elmhurst College, and I help with the admission process, which we try to make as easy as possible. What you're looking at is a couple basic steps that you can get into the program. Obviously, you'd want to visit the official GIS website, which is online here. And if I'm sure it's been mentioned a time or two along the way, but we'll be sending out this PowerPoint presentation as a PDF, so you'll have access to all these URLs we're showing you. You can download the application. It's free to apply. You can apply online as well. That link is available on the GIS website, of course. If you'd like a paper application packet, we can do that too. You can contact our Office of Adult and Graduate Admission. We're part of the School for Professional Studies at Elmhurst College, and you can do that via OAGA, O-A-G-A, at elmhurst.edu. This is a non-degree program, so you don't need to worry about college transcripts. We do want you to be a high school graduate, of course, for the program. Once you complete the application, you get admitted. You'll then need to complete a registration form that we'll send you and send us a $100 tuition deposit, and that's all you need to do to get started. The first class for GIS 100 is going to be starting this February. The tuition is $575 per semester hour. That's for the 2013 academic year, and because this is a non-degree program, unfortunately, the FAFSA program, financial aid, and our college scholarships here do not apply. So there is no application fee, and we usually look for our application deadline, at least for spring, for the GIS 100 course to be January 15th, 2013. Of course, Elmhurst College is a four-year liberal arts school. We've been here since 1871, and we are fully accredited by the Department of Education in the state of Illinois and by the Higher Learning Commission, a member of the North Central Association of Colleges and Schools as well. So thank you so much for coming out and seeing us tonight online. If you do have some questions about the program, you have a little box to type that in your upper right-hand corner of your screen, and it'll show up on our end, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you might have. Dr. Schultz, a question I get asked often is how this relates to the GISP certificate. Can you speak on that for a second?
Sure. The GISP is a national certification in terms of a professional credential. In our program here, this is a certificate program. It's a non-degree program. It is a certificate. The coursework that we have here as part of the Elmhurst College online GIS certificate program does go towards the GISP national certification. So they happen to be right near us. They're located in Des Plaines, Illinois, and that's the GIS Certification Institute, which is part of a larger organization called URISA, U-R-I-S-A. And they have accepted our courses as the educational component for receiving the GISP credential.
Another question.
So we often do get that question, though, what the difference is between a certificate and a certification. We're a certificate program. The GISCI, the GIS Certification Institute, provides the national certification or the credential of the GISP.
Great. Another question just came in. How does this course compare to those offered by ESRI?
Well, the ESRI courses, most of the courses they offer are through their virtual campus, and I should also note that as our students here going through the GIS certificate program, we have access to the virtual campus courses from ESRI by virtue of having a site-wide license, and those are free to all of our students. So there's a long list of more than 100 short courses that our students here that are part of our GIS certificate program could actually take. Most of those courses are asynchronous. Some of them are instructor-led by ESRI, but most of those are short in duration. And they're mostly very content-rich. There's not too many instances where, for example, you might be able to sit down and work one-on-one with a professional to be able to do some problem solving. So I think it's a little bit of a comparison that's like apples and oranges, because while theirs are very content-rich and they're very heavily geared towards the use of the industry-wide software, the applications and the aspect of using GIS as a tool to be able to solve problems in a practical way is not really part of that equation there, where it's the thrust of our program here.
What I would also add on to that is that a lot of those courses, in my mind, would be more so just quick training courses. How do I use this specific tool? Let me set aside 1, 2, or 3 hours, as opposed to our courses, which provide more fundamental knowledge on, especially if you look at the topics that I cover, you know, computer programming, relational database theory, to give you that foundational knowledge that you could then use and apply with the specific tools to accomplish your tasks at work. The next question.
I would say the ESRI courses on the virtual campus are very good reference courses for small skill sets, like you mentioned.
Yes.
I think that they're very good in terms of a short duration and learning a particular skill set.
Another question that came in is, are courses offered in the evening? I think I can answer that, but feel free to jump in if you wish, Dr. Schultz. Basically, the whole program, all of the courses are offered online. So you do not have to be at a specific place at a specific time. The courses are asynchronous, meaning that you can take them as you have the time. Typically, a course will open the weekly module on Sunday night, You will then have the entire week to progress through that module, the various learning activities, be that reading, be that exercises, labs, research, discussions, with that module closing on Saturday night around midnight. So you do not have to be somewhere at a given time. The exception to that, which is an optional component, is a live synchronous session once a week with the respective faculty members, so that you have time to ask various questions. So that would be the only time, and hypothetically on a Tuesday night from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. the ISG course could meet virtually to discuss whatever questions you have. That is not required. All of those discussions would be recorded, would be posted online so that you have access to them. And one of the other benefits of coming to Elmhurst College with its tradition in small class sizes is that you will get the one-on-one instruction that you need. All of the faculty are very responsive to email messages. All of the faculty are very responsive to one-on-one meetings. If you are fortunate enough to live within the Chicagoland area, I know, speaking for myself, I've spent numerous Saturdays, numerous evenings on campus having that face-to-face with the student. If you're not, that's what Skype is for, or some other interactive means to give you the assistance that you need in a convenient manner that kind of bends a little bit to your schedules. Any other questions that we could help with?
You're certainly welcome for getting answers to our answers for your questions. Just so you guys know, we are recording this webinar, and as I said, we'll email you the PDF of the PowerPoint, and in the next week or two, we're going to post this webinar to the GIS website too. So if you want to come back and refer to it, or if you have some colleagues or friends that you think might be interested in this program, please go ahead and pass this along. Otherwise, Dr. Schultz, anything else to add?
Not this evening, unless anyone has any other questions. I'll leave you with my contact information once again. My name is Dr. Rich Schultz. I'm at the Department of Geography and Geosciences and the School for Professional Studies at Elmhurst College. My email address is richs, R-I-C-H-S, @elmhurst.edu.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for taking out an hour of your evening to join us, and hopefully we will see you virtually on campus soon.